What are your just general thoughts on COVID from an accounting perspective over the last year? Like the good, the bad, the ugly that you saw from a business perspective, things that, I mean, you talked about the businesses that had a rainy day fund seem to be doing better
Yes.
and stuff like that. Is there any other just general thoughts about COVID and money that you've seen with your clients or just in general?
Well, yeah, I would say in general, we do have some clients who are just not going to make it through COVID. But I would point out that those clients came to us in trouble in the first place, and then COVID hit. So there was no opportunity to get that straightened out. And so it's hurting them, and it's hurting them really badly.
And that's something that I think that context is never there, right? People are like, COVID killed this business. It's like, hold on.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
It's like, it's not to say that COVID didn't accelerate this thing and that we don't want
it did.
It did, but like that business was probably not doing good already and it was going to close already. And so like you hear these numbers, I'm going to just throw out some fake stats, but like someone will say 30% of businesses closed in 2020 due to COVID. And I say, okay, is that really the number? So if 20% of businesses close every year, and now that number is at 30%, that delta is 10%. So to me, that means that only a 10% increase. And by the way, these are all fake numbers. That means that 10% of businesses closed due to COVID or something else that we could have done, whatever. And so that number is just, it gets reported. And while, yes, in 2020, that business closed, it doesn't necessarily mean that COVID was the reason. And that ticks me off as like a former journalist. It's like, you could do some research to figure that out. Like if a business isn't going to make it anyway, then COVID didn't really kill that business. It was going to die anyway. And look, I don't want a business to die, but it's like, that's not a factual number. It's a factual number without context, I guess.
Well, I mean, it happens during hurricanes too, right?
Yeah.
Such and such person died because of hurricane, whatever. But really what happened is they either had a candle that knocked over and it killed them, or they were not smart with their generator. So it's kind of the same concept. Like, did the hurricane really kill them or not?
Well, I remember seeing businesses like, it was like March 22nd. They're like, COVID killed our business. I'm like,
right. And most companies that were already established when COVID hit and already in trouble, those are the ones who are really having a problem right now. Now, I have had the heartbreaking ability to talk to people who started their businesses right around the time COVID happened, and they didn't qualify for any of the relief because just of the timing, and their businesses never got off the ground. Is that a result of COVID? 100%. I would agree with that. So I've seen, and then of course, there were the people who would come to us when first all of this happened and needed financials because they hadn't kept books in 2 years. And they're like, can you get this to me in a couple of days? And I had to say, no, I'm sorry, I can't do that. I'm a huge proponent of small businesses. If you're a small business, you need a CPA, you need a bookkeeper, because, we generally know what we're doing. And my reasons have always been, one, you want to grow your business. 2, you need to know where your cash position is. And 3, you never know what's going to happen. I used to use natural disasters as an example of things you didn't know was going to happen. But I was thinking fires, hurricanes, earthquakes. Never occurred to me a pandemic, but yeah, now we can include pandemics and all of that. So
how many people have a Dun and Bradstreet number, do you think?
Not that many, and not unless it's required.
And there's been a lot of requirements from that, at least from Virginia on some stuff too, right? Is that what it was? The Rebuild Virginia grant?
There was exactly. You needed a DUNS number for that. Yeah. So that being said, I have seen some of the most amazing things happen as a result of COVID. I have watched businesses become incredibly, they've rolled up their sleeves, they've gotten into it, they've done everything they can to help save their business. They've been very innovative, which has been amazing to watch. I know of some people whose business is actually doing better, even though they're restaurants, than they were prior, because they decided that they weren't going to let this beat them and did everything they could to save their business. So as much as there is bad, I've seen an amazing amount of good come out of it in the form of innovation and just community support.
Yeah, whether or not you like something like a Pizza Hut or not, Pizza Hut or not. I don't know what I just said there. They used to have basically exclusively dine-in stuff, and then they realized at some point that needed to change, right? Panera is a similar company where it was just dine-in, and then they realized, people don't just want to go to the counter. People want to do it from the kiosk, and now they've done carry out in different ways and delivery in different ways. And so those companies, I think, aren't always looked at as like innovative companies, but because they constantly do innovate, I feel like something like a Corona or pandemic has been able to help them get through stuff like this too. And I always tell people, look at what other companies are doing from an innovation standpoint, even when you don't have to quote unquote innovate, just because they see some of their customers, 20% of their customers are looking for something like that. Maybe that's something that you should invest in. And so it's cool to hear that you've seen similar stuff for local businesses, not obviously those big chains.
Yeah, and it's been great to have a front row seat to it as well. I mean, clearly the front row seat to the bad stuff is not as fun, but
sure,
it's been a learning experience for everyone, including myself.